Hello everybody, welcome to another podcast of Mistħija, No Shame, a podcast by MGRM. My name is Luke and welcome to today's podcast. We are talking about sexuality and intimacy out in the open. We are talking about questions, curiosities that we might have that we'd love to discuss openly, and this is a safe space where all of that can happen. We are joined today by two amazing guests. We've got Alec and Kyra. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you today?
Very well, thank you, Mr. Luke Saidon.
All very great. all very grand. All very grand. Can you let us know, before we even dig into what we are going to be talking about, even though our listeners might have already seen the title, who are you? Who are you, Kyra? Who are you? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, hi, I'm Kyra Lautier. I am a Maltese actor, illustrator. I do everything artistic and autistic. So
Wonderful.
You have the little double triple A going on there for you. The nice kind.
The nice kind.
And as you can imagine, the other A stands for asexual. So hello there. I am your designated little person for different kinds of representation. No pressure.
Lovely to meet you. Kyra and I have worked in the past before also in different theatre spheres and projects. So wonderful to be having you on the podcast today. But Alec, we've never met before today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I'm Alec. I'm actually as well non-binary, masculine leaning. And my work and my activism as well revolves around minorities, especially the queer community, but also going into disability and especially neurodiversities, though that's my personal strong point for activism as well from a personal level.
Thank you so much for being here, Alec and Kyra. We are going to be discussing today the topic of asexuality. And both of you are two asexual people, and I'm pretty sure that as a sphere there are so many questions and maybe even truths and lived experiences that are unspoken about that this is our opportunity to just bring them out in the open and discuss them openly and safely. Can one of you tell me, what does it mean when somebody says somebody is asexual? When we look at the LGBT acronym, LGBTQIA+, the A, am I right, stands for asexuality. So as somebody who believes and advocates so much for the inclusion of everybody in our queer sphere, how important that everybody who falls under the A also we'll get to connect and celebrate all of this. So, why would somebody be asexual? What does that mean?
Yeah,
I mean, you literally told me just now that you did your dissertation on asexuality.
Yes.
I'm okay with you doing the bit of introduction.
We're gonna have the proper definition over
And
here.
then I can do the yes and.
Yeah.
I can do the theatrical yes and.
because when
No
doing
pressure.
my dissertation, I actually had to have a citation for the definition of asexuality, and it was really, really difficult to find a definition that I was okay with using.
How interesting. Something that hits the
Because-
home, eh?
Yeah, and I was finding all sorts of inaccurate
Oh my
definitions
gosh,
out
wow.
there. So to find one that actually worked out, it took me quite a while. And I was still not 100% happy with it, which I think is quite a shame, really. I mean, asexuality, like when speaking about asexuality, you have to be broad enough, but at the same time still be able to define something, you know? And I feel like this is the case with a lot of spectrums of identities, and asexuality is one of those. I think what really puts asexuality as a whole umbrella term, I would say, is all to do with sexual attraction and how people go about that in different ways to different levels, or not at all, or some, or a bit. So it's, in a sense, that varying level of sexual attraction and different ways of how to go about it as well.
I see. I think there's already the first interesting factor about a definition where somebody, maybe from an uninformed place, might just go, oh, asexual people is somebody who's not interested in sex or something like that. And straight away there you're giving us avenues that go, actually, there could be a spectrum attitude to this. Kyra, sort of, you're somebody who is asexual.
Yes, I am.
How do you sort of define that in your own, maybe in your own context, in your own life?
Yeah, so I'm actually quite surprised when you said that there are so many juxtaposing things, because when I was first trying to come to terms with asexuality, I literally just like a very quick Google search, am I asexual? I was so surprised. There were so many articles that were so informative, and overall, they, as you mentioned, they would have a few little things here and there, but overall, there were three main things that they all had to common. One is that asexuality is a spectrum. There are different ways to come across asexuality, and they're all valid.
Yeah.
Two is that there is a difference between romantic and sexual attraction. Asexuality being defined by a lack of sexual attraction to some extent, again, because of the spectrum. And three, that there's a difference between sexual attraction and sexual desire. So you could be someone who does maybe have a higher low libido, or you are someone who could be sex positive and still be asexual, just because you wouldn't apply that scenario to you. Or maybe you are not necessarily someone who would like initiate it in a relationship.
That is so fascinating and so well placed out. You should have written a thesis as well. You should have.
I rehearsed
should have
all
released
of
it.
this.
Should have released it as a double bill. Just
need
saying,
more
that was
research.
so. I would really love, Keela. I'm going to go totally away from my questions that I prepared. Can we just elaborate on those three, and of course bring Alec into that conversation as well. So, can you give us number one again?
Okay, so number one is that asexuality is a spectrum. So
I see, and as Alec has also discussed in their way. And also something interesting about if I had to compare that, not that they're comparable in a way, but the conversation that we're having around gender, right now, and the binary, and how a binary can just destroy the beauty of a wonderful spectrum. There's something so easy as going, oh, this means you have an attraction, this means you don't have an attraction, and obviously there's a whole ocean in the middle. The second one was something about romance, romantic love, and...
So this is the main reason why it took me so long to understand that I'm asexual, because I've already been in so many relationships at that point.
Yeah.
And in one of the last ones I had, which then led to me coming out, there are points where my partner, he was already a lot more accepting of the fact that I was asexual, but I was still in denial. Like, we used to watch these shows, which did have really good representations of asexuality on Netflix, like Sex Education, BoJack Horseman. And he would turn to me and he would say, I think that could be you. And I'm like, no, that's not me. I want to get married in the future. I love being in relationships. I didn't realize that I was allowed to be someone who can still love people and have a romantic intimacy with them, kissing, cuddling, wanting to get married. But I could also still have boundaries when it comes to wanting to be in a sexual relationship. I didn't realize that it's just either all or nothing.
I see. And I'm already beginning to learn so much about that.
You're so welcome.
And your third one?
My third one is there is a difference between sexual attraction and sexual desire.
Okay, what does that mean? Can you elaborate, both of you, on that sexual attraction and sexual desire? And I can, in my own mind, I can see a bit. I see a difference there. But for anybody who might look at these and think, I think they're the same person, the same thing that we're talking about. What could be the difference between the two, sexual attraction and sexual desire?
Yeah, basically, that was like one of the main things I was trying to understand myself at some points as well, as someone who's sex positive myself. I was trying to understand how I could differentiate between attraction, desire. It was all very confusing in my head. And what I best found to understand it is like going back to like basic human needs. And for example, thinking about food, because food is something that most people can relate to. And to me, it's the difference between needing food and craving food.
I see.
And then there's that whole mixing of needing food, craving food. There's all those combinations that are possible. And suddenly it's so different how you see sex when you can understand that. Because once I can understand that, then I was like, okay, I can separate these and better understand what I need at this moment in time. Do I want to express the need for it? Do I want to express a craving? And that's how I could better understand that for my case, it was less about the craving and more about a need, for myself at least, I can say.
It's a really beautiful paradigm there. This is really great fun. Thank you so much as well for coming with such clarity as well with that, because even I'm beginning to understand so much. I have no doubt that with the definition also there comes a this is what it is and this is what it's not. And I have no doubt that in any scenario where we are and we're discussing about a queer identity, we're going to have assumptions and stereotypes that we are going to meet. Always. And some assumptions are hilarious and some assumptions are trivial and some assumptions could be incredibly dangerous as well and harmful. So for anybody out there who is beginning to form this picture of asexuality, what are some of the assumptions or myths or things that could be actually harmful to the asexual community that you've received, heard of, and it's good to bring them out in the open right now?
I mean, I think I can flag the biggest one, which is, oh, you're not really asexual. You just haven't had sex with the right person yet.
Right, tell me more.
Every single time I hear that, I just think to myself, would you tell a gay man that he just hasn't had sex with a woman yet?
They used to, but I think
But
it's a
we're
bit more.
better
It's
now, I
We've
hope.
hopefully come a bit of a way from that. Yeah.
As in, people just assume, oh, you're still new to the concept of sex.
Yeah,
Do you want
yeah.
someone like me to show you because I'm the pinnacle of sex? Yeah. And I'm like, no.
But yeah, that's very interesting. Are there any other assumptions
That also links as well to the assumption of trauma as well. There's a massive assumption that for you to be asexual means that you have had some sort of sexual trauma.
Oh, fascinating.
And that's okay. Like some people have had experiences of sexual trauma and that's a whole different experience. But at the same time, to completely correlate asexuality and sexual trauma, it's not 100% mixed because you can have one without the other in various directions. And although you might have an asexual person who has had sexual trauma, that does not mean that an asexual person has to have sexual trauma to be asexual whatsoever.
And I can speak very openly because I do have sexual trauma, which I've been recovering now for like almost 10 years or so. And it got to a point where when I came aware of this term asexual, I'm like, is this me or is this a response? So like you have to take that time to remember every single concept and assumption you ever had about the concept of sex before that experience. And I look back on that, I look back on like those 10 to 20 years and I'm like, oh no, I was never interested in that. Okay, never mind.
Thanks for sharing that, Kyra, as well. There's something interesting as well about that. I'm just imagining, or rather hypothesizing, as far as the queer movement has always had sexual liberation at its front, and big conversations have been happening. Am I right in assuming that any pressure might be put on asexual people from queer spaces, or let's say the high sexual liberation that is at the forefront and needs to happen, and not the pressure needs to happen, but sexual liberation needs to happen in one direction, but then that can come across as quite pressureful for your experiences. I don't know if you have any thought on that.
I mean, I remember, I think I even touched upon this the first time we ever had a conversation years ago, whereby I expressed that as an asexual person, I do sometimes feel a bit hyper-conscious of the fact that I'm in queer spaces because queer rights come from wanting to have this need to justify that you have the ability to have a romantic and sexual relationship with anyone. And I'm like, oh, I'm only focusing on half that battle. And even then, it's technically not that much of a battle. So you guys are at the forefront. I'm just like a little helpful supporter because as someone, again, who doesn't engage in any form of sexual activity anymore, I can only support you guys so much, or maybe empathize, but I will never be able to fight the same fights as you guys do.
Yeah. So fascinating. Sort of turning the page slightly as well on that. Alec, I wonder if you can tell us hormones, transitioning, gender identity, and we can take them one at a time. Have they played a part in your asexual journey?
Yes, I had been asexual, I'm still asexual. That did not particularly change about me per se. However, there is an implication of taking testosterone that affects your body in a different way than I would have otherwise been used to. Suddenly, sexual activity of any sort is feeling very different than it used to because of that change. And as one would know, testosterone is known to increase your libido as well. And I experienced that myself. And at first I was confused because I was like, I don't want any sexual activity. Like I'm not interested. I couldn't be bothered. I don't care any less. I just go about my day not thinking about it. But then at the same time, there was this like frustration somewhere that I was not aware where it was coming from. That was different than before I started my transition.
Oh, wow.
And it took me a while to figure out that, oh, I feel better now because I actually had like a sexual like experience, and I feel better and less frustrated. So it took me a while to figure that out about myself, and it's very difficult to navigate as well because it's a very fluctuating thing, and it's something that had to really renegotiate the boundaries that I had in my relationship as well. Because things were changing. So I needed to recommunicate everything, and oh, actually, this is different now. We needed to have a discussion on most of the things all over again to find a way how we're both comfortable with the changes that were happening. So reaching that balance was like being in the beginning of a relationship and you're starting those boundaries from all over again. Except it was with someone I was already with before, so that aspect made it easier as well. But
For
it
somebody else
affected me much
navigating it with
more.
somebody new, though, that could be a very big, big
And I
conversation.
think it would like make a big difference as well because if you have good knowledge of what sexual experiences were like before for you, you can somehow notice some changes happening. But if you're still very new to things, then sometimes I wonder like how much harder is it going to be if you're going through all those changes but not having someone like to actually compare things with.
Interesting.
So yeah.
You mentioned boundaries earlier, and that would be a very interesting thing as well, bringing back the whole idea of the romantic attraction, the desire, the need, the crave, which are really, really interesting things. And share as much as you like from your own personal life, but also possibly putting it on the broader asexual community. How would you suggest going about somebody wanting to set up boundaries for themselves? And I ask this question in an effort of, I would like somebody out there who might be experiencing the same things to feel safe and to feel like, I do want to pursue this, but I don't want to hurt my partner. I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to hurt the people that I love. How might have you gone about it? But also, how would you suggest that we can go about it? Setting up boundaries.
Whenever I'm in a scenario where I think, not when I think, I am dates, but whenever I do go on dates, I'm always very upfront. I'm like, hey, I'm just going to flag this from now. I'm asexual. What this means is that I'm not someone who engages with sexual activity. So you need to know if we're moving forward, I'm not going to be sexual with you. I need you to understand it's not because of how I see you or what I think your worth is. That's literally just myself expressing my boundaries regardless of the outcome and the atmosphere. If this is not for you, that is very justifiable. I just want you to process this from now because it's non-negotiable. As in, I'm doing this, like, obviously it means I'm not getting as many people as I deserve. But at least it also means that I am protecting myself.
That is iconic. Of course that means as I deserve as well, which is that's so well put. But that's so interesting as well. And also you having the, let's say, security and clarity to be upfront with it. And it could be, I suppose it could be such a turbulent journey on somebody trying to express it possibly in a space where it might not be welcome. What about you, Alec, as far as if you had to give advice on the setting of boundaries?
I think what needs to be tackled is expectations, because there's a lot of expectations. A lot of them are also default because it's like, oh, society does this is the norm. So this is what I'm expecting out of a relationship. So even if it's just not about sexual things, you might need to reconsider like expectations in other areas as well, because it's so easy to fall into a trap of, oh, relationship means this, 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 this. And not even if it's not a relationship, even if it's a one-night stand or something like that, there's always an expectation to follow through with something. So I think it's very important to tackle those expectations. And maybe something a bit controversial to a certain point as well is the partner involved needs to be open and willing to learn and understand. But
course.
also, I want to make a point that it's also important for the person, like, for example, myself, to then communicate well as well with the partner involved, because it can be so easy to be like, oh, but I'm like this and whatever, and that's it. And unfortunately, a lot of these things are not common sense or something that everyone's just going to think the same thing. So I would also like to say that it's also very important to make the extra effort as well to put yourself forward, because then if you're not communicating well, you can't expect the other person to fully understand you either. And that can be a very hard step to do yourself as well, especially from a vulnerable point, like you're putting yourself forward and it's something that maybe you're nervous about to begin with, to tell the person and to discuss. So it requires a lot of effort to come forward, but in the long run, if you really wanted to work with someone, I think it's really important to put that effort as well from your end.
I think that's also a very responsible way of setting it out as well, because at the end of the day, it is about empathy, and it is about, I want to protect myself as much as I want to protect you. So the enforcing of something, I need you, the projection of something, that I need you to understand this, because this is how things are, without that empathetic chain there, would be far more difficult. I would suppose we love just thinking, and also it's other topics that we've discussed on this very same podcast. I'm sure that if we're trying to form the holistic picture of asexuality, we'd love to go, oh, but what about this? And what about that? And what about that? And I think that's literally where my question comes from. And again, the conversation between definition, assumption, /stereotypes, /fake things. Porn, masturbation, fantasies, do they play a role? Do they not play a role in it? Because potentially one might be looking at attraction necessarily just including somebody else, not just things within yourself, or just intimacy within yourself. Do they have a place within the asexual word? Things like porn, things like masturbation, things like fantasies.
When I first came to terms with asexuality, the first thing I did, I went on Facebook, I typed in asexual or asexuality, and I became a member of every single asexual-based group I could, just so I could educate myself, because
Wow.
I don't know if we've ever actually spoken about this. Asexuals, we only make up 1% of the global population, so we have to be very, very resourceful, especially being asexual in Malta.
I kind of that was going to be another question for me, which I think open a whole other can. No, please go for it. No, discuss it if you want. Yeah.
Yes, but to circle back, and because I'm wanting to, continuously trying to expose myself to the spectrum of asexuality, sometimes you see these anonymous posts and everyone on that forum is so supportive. Like, one of the most common questions is, I sometimes masturbate. Does that still mean I'm asexual? And the answer is always, yes, you are. Masturbation is through sexual desire, not sexual attraction. And some people would do it just for like health reasons and nothing more.
I think what's really interesting as well, because if you really do like a deep dive into a lot of like terms that smaller niches of groups come up with, it gets very interesting to look at these kinds of very niche identities within the spectrum. And it's funny. It's good that you mentioned fantasies as well, because one can still have fantasies and maybe not want to physically actually play them out, but maybe it's just nice to think about. You could be ace and you could be writing the most smutty fanfic that I know of, you could express yourself in that way too. and that's completely fine. So it's very interesting, actually, the diversity as well in the spectrum.
Exactly the understanding of what a spectrum it is so fascinating. You mentioned Malta, and let's go on straight onto that while it's fresh in your mind, Kyra, because I don't want us to run out of time and not discuss it. But obviously, the local angle is very important. We are right now talking in Malta. What is it like? What is? I mean, we are doing sort of opening the ACE group and making people, because you've never met before today, have you?
No.
We're opening a brand new Pride section when I get to see you next at Pride, and you two are going to be heading it up. But what has the local sort of sphere been? Oh, that good, eh? That good, honestly.
As in, again, we had a small chat before this, and you said that now you have like a group chat or a friend group which are specifically for ace people.
It wasn't on purpose, mind you.
But still, it's fantastic. I have been out for 5 years, and in that time, just to give people some context, we've done core queer. I was the leading lady of core queer.
You're the leading costume changer at the front, singing the high notes.
I was. If you guys want, it's on my Insta Reel story, so just... But no, I've done that. I've been contributing to NGRM. I've been doing so many things for this beautiful community, which deserves everything and above. I have only met 6 or 7 asexuals in this time, and all of them were also aromantic. So that means I'm never really finding someone who is like me.
I see romantic, but asexual.
Yeah, so that's someone who lacks romantic and sexual attraction. People who are aromantic, they're also part of the asexual spectrum.
Okay, nice. But that's very small. And do you believe the situation would be different outside of, because you mentioned 1% earlier, and so it is.
I love how we take.
Do you think it's different out there, outside of Malta?
Absolutely. I remember there was this point where I was doing some research because I'm like, should I do like a master's in musical theatre or acting abroad? Let me look at London because I have some family there. So I was looking at Mantview, GSA, ArtSed. Mantview, they literally had like a podcast devoted to like Asexual Awareness Week.
Wow.
And then when I popped into London for like a week or so, I just, let me go on Tinder, let me just see, like, why not? Within that week, 50 matches. You do not get that in Malta as an asexual. Or maybe I'm just a problem. Maybe I haven't found someone who can match.
Not what you deserve yet. That's what it is about. Not what you deserve yet.
Thank you very much.
What about you, Alec? What is the local?
It does feel like a vacuum a lot of times. Like,
it feels also, like now it's 8, by the way, because now we met Alec. So like it's increasing. The 6 or 7 is now increasing. All right, we're working on this. Sorry, Alec, I interrupted you.
But yeah, it feels like I feel like there's definitely a bunch of us, but at the same time, I don't see the same like social activity like I see with other queer identities. And I feel like that really holds us back from being able to meet each other more. Because, I mean, I'm personally not the party type, and honestly, I feel uncomfortable at parties and some energies that there are at parties sometimes. So I can understand that maybe certain other queer identities might find some things in common and go to certain parties they might be interested in and other social events. But then when I try to think with like, okay, asexual, like kind of friendly events, and it's like always boring, nerdy shit that I think of. And I'm like, I don't want it to be like that, I want to have an ace-friendly party, that would be really cool. But at the same time...
With all the love to all the people who go to such a party.
Yeah, with all the love and respect and everything. But I just wish that there were more diverse parties that could cater to people, not just ace people, but just the crowd in general who's not looking for that kind of energy.
Yes.
So I feel like that's really lacking here.
And there's a very interesting conversation there about, earlier we spoke about sort of we haven't met the right person yet, and how come that might come with, did I use the word infantilization, where you're just sort of speaking of something, it's like, you're not into the sexual conversations that we are having, therefore let's just go to a safer ground which safety isn't, no, safety, safe, please always be safe. Safety is not the right word there. Let's say, not crazy, the non-wilder spaces where some of those conversations might be happening. And it's a really interesting route to take when those projections are happening. Let's put it that way. But and I think in what you were saying there, Alec, it's the need for a community, that's why we cannot advocate enough for more community spaces, community projects, artistic community projects to keep thriving and going. But if that swipe does happen, and if one of those 50 from London happens to be here on Malta or whatever, and you get to go, and we're doing a plea here. So any of those 50, you match with Kyra, please get in touch. No, don't do that.
No, why not?
We'll open a link and a pop-up for you to join. We're literally doing Kyra's dating service on the podcast. We'll do that.
I mean, if we want to soft launch this
We'll do that. This is it. We're doing it. No, but if a date is happening, and let's say somebody is asexual or somebody is not asexual, and I think it'd be really interesting to speak about etiquette, ways. We spoke about assumptions already, but I'm pretty sure that there's a very stereotypical way of a date to happen, where potentially a sexual goal is always going to be there at the very end. Let's start from one side of it. If somebody is asexual and they do want to go dating, it might not be everybody's cup of tea, obviously, but they do want to do that. How can they go about it? You spoke so beautifully about the security you have and sitting down, this is who I am and it's non-negotiable for me. But what barriers / things to put up, to bring up rather, so in order for you to protect yourself as the asexual person? I don't know what your thoughts could be over there.
Again, it comes down to having this conversation with yourself, which in a way, you have to sort of see yourself as being the ambassador of asexuality, because who else can you turn to unless you have allies, which I really hope so.
But we feel that in any corner of the queer space, isn't it? That we have to be ambassadors for one another. So absolutely right, Kyra.
So there's a matter of asking yourself, okay, if I were in this situation, would I be someone who might engage with sex, or is that also not something for me? If I do, am I doing it for the benefit of my partner, or is this something which I'm literally okay with and I feel safe going through with it, and I don't feel like I'm harming myself for the sake of having some sort of there's a very particular word and it will come out eventually, as part of fulfilling some sort of obligation, as part of being someone's partner.
Some pattern, some expected behavior, so really interesting. Alec, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
I've been in the same relationship with the same person for 8 years almost now.
What is the secret? I'm joking. That's amazing.
And as part of that, there were a lot of changes that were happening. We're both figuring out our identities on a lot of different fronts. And I think it's also important then to see that the other person in a way is also willing to also come to your level on that conversation as well. Because if any one of us was not doing that, then we wouldn't have had the 8 years we have nowadays. So it's very important for the other person to notice, like, hey, you're gonna need to take me seriously on this. We're gonna need to have a serious discussion about this. And if that other person is just not doing that,
and protect yourself, I think, more than more.
So there, at a certain point, don't just keep trying. I think it's harsh. It's a harsh truth sometimes. That's for some people, it's just not going to work with someone based off of the diverse sexual experience and understanding that's going on, and it's not always going to work. And I've had people tell me as well, oh my God, I'm never going to date anyone that's not asexual because I've had so many bad experiences and they just don't listen and they just don't care and they continue to not care. So unfortunately, it's very important to really focus on whether the other person is in a place to actually give it the attention it requires.
And you both have already touched on this, and thank you for sharing all of that. If you had to be on the other side of the coin and you're falling in love with somebody, and at some point, possibly not somebody as upfront as the way that you were talking about, Kyra, lets you know that they are asexual, possibly in a time where it's a point of no return of, oh, we're getting so close to this point that actually I do now have to say it, and it could be an incredibly vulnerable position for this person. I'm sure that we're all very clear on what the answer is, but what should a person who might not be asexual on the asexual spectrum and be in this situation, and you're literally with somebody that you care for so much who is asexual, what would your thoughts be on that? What has to go into somebody's mind? What has to be somebody's place to be, place to be, to ensure that safety is happening all throughout?
I think that person needs to make sure that they're feeling secure enough in themselves, and to be very aware of any insecurities that might pop up or about the situation. And it's always just really important to listen with care, but also just be honest. Honestly, because if you love someone, it might be difficult to bring up some conversations that you might feel might bring you further instead of closer to each other. But it's really important to be honest, because if you're feeling something and it's not feeling right, then even if you're not saying it to try and maintain the peace, what kind of peace is there if you're not saying it? The relationship will feel that sort of tension. Something's up, you can't maybe see and feel, touch it, but you would feel something's unsaid. So it's very important to be honest. It might just not always work out, and you just have to evaluate if having it not work out is the best option for both of you or not. And it's a very difficult conversation to have. I mean, preferably it would just work out, but realistically,
Absolutely.
sometimes some things are just not going to work out and are not compatible.
And it is a view that I do admire, us living in a rom-com world where the happy ending is that you found your the one and your perfect match and all of that. And I think it's so important to just go, if it's not going to work out, there needs to be security to realize that. Because if you're going to try and make this work out, somebody's going to get hurt, especially in these situations. We're going to have to start wrapping up, unfortunately. But it would be really amazing to also close on anybody. We will never know who is listening to this, and somebody might be on the beginning of their asexual discovery. Somebody might be experiencing this with somebody very close to them, possibly a parent, possibly a family member, possibly a child to somebody who is I don't know, older. Sorry, child. I mean the son or I'm really not saying that right. Somebody's parent, for example, somebody's uncle. A child might be too much to bring into there to try and figure it out. We are in a world which I think thrives on the assumption that everybody wants to have sex, and it's a marketable thing. It's something that sells, and it's something that is pasted all over, all around us in the agenda that we constantly see. In that world, what needs to be in place to make sure that the asexual community can continue to thrive? And we were joking calling you ambassadors, but that's literally what you are today. What would be your thoughts on that, and how can we make a healthier space for the asexual community in this?
For me personally, my main focus as a big thing to tackle would be gender norms, because there's a lot of implications of gender norms in relation to sex as well. And in fact, I see a lot of mostly women or female people who are actually going the step forward and being more visible within asexuality. And I worry, where are the dudes?
Where are the
Where
dudes?
are the dudes? Why? Is something holding them back? And I really worry that the gender norms that we have in our society have a massive, massive impact on someone being able to explore that. And also, like we said, because of the whole conception of, oh, desire and attraction, I feel like people are not as likely to be thinking about this as much because, oh, I'm expected to do this because this is I'm like and I'm this is how I'm supposed to be. Anything else is just wrong. So for me, that's like at the moment like my big area of like what I'm interested in. Where are the guys?
Yeah, yeah.
It's okay. Like
And by that, Alec, you mean that we're getting a far more female and non-binary openness of asexuality than we're getting in male. Then is that a thing? The visibility of it.
Different.
Interesting. That's so interesting. That's very, very, very interesting. And I'm glad that was brought up actually, because hopefully we'll get people thinking and the amount of statistics that we're not seeing, which is so interesting. Kyra,
Hey.
sign us off.
How do I follow that?
And it was a very good one. It was a very good
one.
one.
Okay, I get it. You did your dissertation on this. Fine. I just did my dissertation on like a fun little horror film that I turned into a comedy show. Like, what is this?
There you go.
But no, enough about me. Let's speak about everyone else. No, I mean, if there's anyone out there and they do feel like they are part of this community, obviously it'll take a lot of time just to process that because it would mean you're part of 1 or maybe less than 1% of the global population. And that can feel very intense. But I mean, hey, good news. That just means you're part of like 80 million people in the world, so not that bad, not that bad. Forget you're in Malta, not that bad. I mean, just whenever you feel like you're a very specific breed of human, just know there are others like you. Yeah. And like whatever you're doing with your life, it is justifiable because you're doing it for yourself, and that is what ends up mattering, okay? You can have any people in your life, parents, partners, but ultimately, the most important relationship is going to be the one with you because that's the one that's going to hold you through everything. So be sure that that is the one that you take the most care of.
That is really
How was that?
Beautiful. That's really beautiful. Can I just say I'm getting to know you both at this level now, but I feel so proud that you can speak so eloquently and clearly about your identity and who you are, and these are the barriers that I come with into this world. And barriers might be a big word, but this is where I feel safe and this is where I can thrive. And the idea that the quoting you and saying, and some things are non-negotiable, I think really then just takes away from the pressures that any community, including the queer community, rest of the queer community, let's say, might put on the asexual world. So I cannot thank you enough for being with us. It's really lovely to get to know you both, and thank you for sharing such an important part of yourselves with us. I have no doubt that lots of inspiration would have been created there for everybody who is listening. Thank you, Alec, and good luck with all your work. Thank you, Kyra, and good luck with all your work. Thank you, dear listeners, for joining us for another podcast. Hope that there are some big takeaways there, whether it's for yourself, whether it's for somebody who is dear and near to you as well. Love one another, protect one another fiercely, and take very good care. I've been Luke, and this was Mistħija. Take care. Bye-bye.